Hey guys, Greg here, Bone Tactical, and today we're going to discuss shelter as it pertains to survival and as it's written in my new survival guide, my newest book, The Survival Guide, Bone Tactical by Greg Zambone. We have covered a lot of chapters so far, so if you're just watching this video, we've already covered episode 1, Survival Basics, episode 2, Water, episode 3, Fire, episode 4, The Rule of Threes, episode 5, Security, and this is episode 6, Shelter. All right? What we're going to cover specifically is I'm going to discuss with you guys shelter as it pertains to bugging out and survival, and I think a lot of people don't necessarily consider the bugging out aspect of it, and I think there's a lot of the survival shelter ideas that are a little bit skewed, okay? I think that there's a lot of ways that we could improve on what's being taught, and that's why I'm throwing my hat in the ring to try and share my expertise and experience, or whatever you want to call it, as having survived in some of the world's most non-permissive environments. Now, your first line of defense against the elements, in my opinion, is your clothing. So it's kind of important that you either put some of your clothing as it pertains to the environment that you're going to be in your survival bag. You can have a survival bag like this survival kit that I sell, complete with the book and everything. And there's plenty of extra room to put a change of clothes. And so if you're in a cold weather environment, then you want to put cold weather clothes. And if you're in a hot weather environment, then you want to put, sun protection, hot weather clothes, all that kind of stuff. If you're cold, you want to have, if you're in a cold weather environment, you want to have layers, right? Layering systems. You always want to have, if you don't wear a comfortable pair of shoes every day, then you always want to have a comfortable pair of shoes or boots in your bag. If you're going to be in a marsh or swampy environment, then you might want rubber boots. Okay, so there's so many considerations. You may want a high performance clothing if you're going to be outdoors a lot. Like, for example, this Columbia combat shirt. This is the extreme duty gear, so it can protect against, if I'm going to be rubbing up against thorn bushes or anything like that. But also, protects from the sun and everything, might be having the effect of hurting your skin, poison ivy, all that kind of stuff out in the woods. So from there, what most people automatically think of when they think shelter is a building, right? Well, when you're thinking about survival, and both survival and bugging out, you don't necessarily want to have to always build a building or build a survival shelter. It's great to know how. It's great to get out there and practice. And we'll do an episode on tools, and then we'll cover, because you can't really build a great survival shelter without some good tools. But that being said, why not just find an abandoned house like this? Okay, so you want to have there's always going to be abandoned areas around. I'll give an example. I was out in Utah in the Wasatch Mountains doing some hiking and canyoneering and stuff, and a lot of stuff out there. I've been down as far as to Moab, all over there. I've been out in the Everglades. You'll find, hunter shacks, poacher shacks, abandoned houses and buildings. There's canyons and caves, and you'll even find out west, there's caves that the Indians used to use, right? So there's so many options of being able to find a shelter long before you actually have to build one. And then if you're on the fringes of society, or we're here probably farther away than any of you will ever be from society, but at one point in time, there was a successful coffee farm here a long time ago. And there's just houses everywhere all over this property, and all of them are abandoned. So that's kind of a cool little fun fact of where we're at now. But this is shelter. Now, what did you see in this intro video? You noticed that we've got shelter from extreme elements here, right? Possibly shelter from maybe even if somebody's looking for us and we cover our tracks well, we can hide out in here overnight because the building already existed. Nobody's going to necessarily think, with so many empty buildings around, nobody's going to know what building somebody might be in at any given time. So there was an issue with body temperature though, right? the guy in the introduction, he may have had all the right clothes on, or you may, in your case, have all the right clothes on, but you get wet. It gets, we're here, where we're here, we're in a cloud forest, tropical cloud forest, and gets incredibly, it's so hot during the daytime, but it gets cold at night. And if you happen to fall in the water during a river crossing right before night, you could get hypothermia and die. All you've got to do is just put yourself inside of your tube tent, and then you're good to go, right? These are the tube tents from Bone Tactical. It's a Mylar tube tent, also used as a signal device. These are the ones I use, so they're the ones I recommend. They're the ones I sell. You can use any kind of one you want. And I do want to say, I've had some guys comment and say, you know, you should put camo tube tents in your bug out bag. And here's the deal, guys. Everybody wants to be Jason Bourne, right? But I'm going to tell you, and from experience of having had to escape and evade probably more than anyone you'll ever meet in your life, I've lived a life as an international fugitive, escaping and evading, pick your alphabet soup name of an agency, and never did I think that I wouldn't at least want the option of a signal device necessarily. Maybe I'm not planning on being rescued, and I understand that that's something that you may not be planning on either. But if we're being realistic, and if we're being honest with ourselves, and if we're putting aside our false sense of pride maybe, or really just being macho, if we can put that aside for a second, we can see that maybe 1% of the time or less that anybody actually has to use their survival bug out equipment, are they going to want to be using a Mylar blanket to hide? And then apart from that, it's not great to hide in anyway. So if you're wanting to use a Mylar blanket to hide, it's probably a bad idea to begin with. It's not realistic. You're not ever going to actually want a Mylar blanket to survive because it's not made for that. What you can do is get yourself a tube, tent style closed in, maybe a jungle hammock with a rain fly that's camouflage, maybe a bivvy, right? Bivvy shelter that's camouflage, and then just put your tube tent in it, right? So it's that simple, but just wanted to comment on that because I've had a strange number of individuals commenting and saying that I should include a camouflage Mylar tube tent, but it's unrealistic and unnecessary. If you want to camouflage it, you could even spray paint it if you needed to, but it's not something that, it's Mylar, so it doesn't camouflage well anyway. It can hide your body heat, but you're still going to want some sort of a breakup over the top of it, some sort of a outline breakup, right? Because it's not about just the colorway, it's about the outline breakup. This is what I'm wearing is actually the world's most effective camouflage, in my opinion, at this point. And I think you can tell by watching these videos how it just disappears into the jungle like no other camouflage in the world, and really does that across a very wide range of natural environments and even in urban environments, which is just mind-blowing. But it still doesn't break up my silhouette, right? I still look like a human being walking on two legs anywhere that I go. So that's something else that needs to be considered as far as camouflage goes. But as far as shelter goes, the key considerations and what's key to take away here are your first line of defense is your clothing. Then you want to have something like a Mylar tube tent because it allows you to generate body heat or save your body heat in an emergency situation. And it's very light, right? It's very light, doesn't weigh hardly anything. So I have all this stuff in here, super light, and can survive for weeks on end. Plenty of extra room to throw in there, all very important stuff. Conserving calories is the big idea. Using your head, all right? Find a shelter that already exists and make it work rather than burning all your calories and dying because you spent everything you had on building a shelter and now you're in your shelter and you can't go find water, you can't purify water, you can't go find food, all that kind of stuff. You get caught by whoever's looking for you because you spent 3 days building a shelter. So guys, I mean, there's just so much to take into consideration here, and I hope you guys are open-minded enough to be able to pick up this stuff, because a lot of what I'm sharing here on my channel is very, what could be considered controversial, since unfortunately in our modern world, most people that are teaching bug out, survival, escape, and evasion, survival stuff on YouTube haven't actually had to use any of the stuff that they're teaching. So it's a bunch of it is bunk, I unfortunately have to say. But I really hope that you guys can follow along enough to be able to learn from this stuff and pick up some of these survival basics. This stuff is outlined all in my book, my survival book, and I go through and actually tell you the skills that you need to practice. So what I do recommend is actually getting out in the woods, buy a couple of these bags or build them yourself, right? You're going to spend a lot more money if you build it yourself. I buy this stuff in bulk, so I'm able to sell it at a very affordable price, really. So kind of just something I do to figured out I was able to do to kind of give back to my community of people, fellow, YouTube followers and fellow preparedness and forward thinking protectors of the community, right? And that's kind of what I'm trying to do is get out there an affordable survival kit and full package, along with being able to really teach the truths that are necessary. And the final step is on you. You guys have to practice. You got to do the work yourself. I can't do the work for you. I can only lead you to the knowledge. I can't make you think on your own. So I really hope you guys take the initiative. Get yourself some of this gear, get out in the woods and practice, get out with your family, your kids, do it, okay? Get yourself prepared and let's build a strong society again, and a society that has a hope for a future without having to rely on the pleasantries in life and technology and such things that are not necessarily a given. But let me know if you guys like this series so far. If you haven't seen the other videos, definitely go check them out. Leave me a comment. The comments is how this channel is fueled. The comment section is what keeps these videos going and keeps me knowing what you guys like. You gotta, the way YouTube works is you gotta like the video and then subscribe to my channel, and there's like a little bell thing. You gotta click that bell, because if you don't click the bell, YouTube won't let you know that I've put certain videos up or when I put new videos up. So you gotta do all that kind of stuff. And that's also how YouTube lets me know that, that you guys like what I'm doing, right? And so that's how I can afford to keep doing this stuff, is through your support. So thank you. At the end of the day, I just want to say thanks for your support. You watching this video and doing those few things I mentioned helps the greater community have access to this knowledge for free. So pretty awesome thing. Thanks for watching. Bone out.